that your output now is going to, your output in regards to lead generation, how much lead generation that you're doing is going to produce a 30 to 50% less productivity rate. Meaning, like, you're going to have to increase productivity. You're going to have to increase your efforts 30 to 50% just to get where you're at right now in production. You guys with me?
Yes. Yes.
Coco, you've been around long enough.
Yes, I have been calling my database. It's very, very good.
Yeah.
It takes twice as longer because everybody talks a lot and they are very grateful that we remember them. It's pretty good.
Yeah. People, I know, I wasn't Nicole or one of you guys was already engaged in talking to the database, and that I know Coco Jr. there, some of the conversations you were having with people were just grateful that we're connecting. And if real estate's about relationships, then this is the opportunity to be able to be human first. How are you? How's your family? How are things going? How's your kids? How are you doing? Is there anything I can do for you?
So how would, in those terms, how do you approach that call? Obviously not like, hey, let me do real estate. It's more of obviously being genuine and, hey, how have you been? How's everything going? And then do you talk any real estate or just like, hey, how are you?
No, you don't say anything about real estate.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I haven't. I sometimes I even say, I'm not calling you about real estate. I'm just calling to ask, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect.
Yeah. And Andres, I did a video on that too this past week with coming from being human first, right? How are you? How's your family? And then being hospitable with, like, is there information or resources, or can you point them in the right direction with something? Like, how are you doing on food? How are you doing on toilet paper? Like, do you need anything? Some people who are old, especially for the elderly, right? Like, we all know people that, around us, even close by, neighbors, right? My neighbor next door to me is a single woman, and she's got to be in her mid to late 60s, probably late 60s. And just to check in, hey, how are you doing? Everything all right? You good?
I'm part of a Rotary group, and what I'm going to do is call all the Rotarians and see how they're doing.
And what better time for when the storm blows over, because this storm will pass. When it will pass, I mean, that's what we're all, that's what's happening. This is not the end of the world. And for us to be the light in this darkness and in this fear, because people are operating on fear right now. And look, we're gonna live as a culture, right? As a society, like, humankind's not gonna, it's not gonna be over. And it's horrible what's happening with people dying, but we got to be here for each other, and we got to be the light, and we have to be the hope. The hope.
So Paul, I was calling my DTD2 yesterday, and I had someone on my list that I had met a while back and really haven't been connecting with. And so when I called him, I immediately said, hey, I'm just calling Paula Hufford from Keller Williams. I'm not calling about real estate, though. I was just thinking of you and wanted to see how you guys are doing and if you needed anything. And he was hospitable. And then I asked him, I said, do you mind if I just keep checking on you once in a while during this? And he said yes. So.
You know what, Paula, I had a thought in my head that I'm glad you've manifested in this idea, is that what better time to set the expectation with people that you know that, hey, do you mind if I stay in touch with you a little more often? What an opportunity to do that, right? Is that it's not weird that you're reaching out to people and going, hey, how are you? How are things going? How's your family? Blah, 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 blah. On all that, good, right? And then go, hey, do you mind if I stay in touch a little more often, just to check on you, see how things are going? And of course, if there's anything that I can do for you. And then once you've set that expectation, the call back in a month, which in my opinion, like right now, you could be calling your database like every 4 weeks right now, that often, because the next few weeks are going to be tough. It'd be easy for you to follow up right now every 2 to 3 or 4 weeks. What's up? What's going on? How are you? I'm calling people that I don't normally call as often as I normally should be calling them. And because we're all kind of like, ugh.
Paul, do you think so? I have the database for all the Rotarians. I was thinking of sending them an email and being like, how are you guys? Blah, blah, blah. And then maybe Zoom call, or should I just call them instead of sending an email? And
Just call them.
okay.
Just call them. Call them and send a follow-up email afterwards. But the email is really, look, I want this to be personable. I want this to be a human connection. Like, I don't want this to be a marketing strategy.
Yeah, I agree.
This is the time to be human right now. And that's going to go so much further than any tricky.
But it's human marketing.
Human marketing. Yeah, Norma.
It is human marketing at the end, and it's people feels good to listen to you and call your landscaper and say, how are you doing? I'm concerned about your family. Those guys are so nice and feel so important for you if you call them the people that always is being for you.
Man, I love coaching because I often, honestly, you guys, the best part of coaching is that I get the best ideas from everybody else, and then I just share what's going on. Because Norma brings up a really good point. Yeah, how about your vendors or people that you want to incorporate into your to as possible vendors? How are you doing? How are you guys? Because I should be treating vendors like my sphere of influence, and maybe I haven't done that, and maybe I haven't organized around that. But that's an awesome opportunity to connect with vendors or potential vendors. Hey, I know I haven't used your services yet, but I'm once this storm blows over, I'm going to be back into things, and I've been thinking about you. And so, how are you? How are things going? What's happening? How's your business? How are you dealing with all this?
Yeah.
That's great.
Paul, one of the things that I've started to do was really being new, just reaching out to all the people that I know from before. Like, I worked at the Cedar Park Center or the ATV Center now for 10 years, and I'm reaching out to suite owners that have owned suites. And yesterday, one of the suite servers is looking to buy a house and then possibly sell a house or lease her house. And I've gotten things that way. Also, one of the ladies used to organize the suites for Dell for a thing. And so she's like, hey, send me your card because I can send my coworkers who are looking to move. She's in Plano to Austin. So I'm getting a lot from past just clients that I had at the HEB Center that way that are just sparking some.
So you were making the calls, and then that just organically happened, those conversations. Is that what you're saying?
I was just calling to check on them. How are you and your family? How is everything? Especially I made a lot of calls yesterday just checking on people.
Yeah.
People that maybe I hadn't talked to in a couple of years. I know, when life gets so busy, we're so busy. And then it's like, okay, now I really don't have much to do as far as, and just start calling people and just to check. And they're, and then the question goes, well, how are you? What's going on with your family? And God opens doors like that.
Yeah.
But not really forcing, hey, I'm a real estate agent now. And, just checking, just being, like you said, human and checking on them and how are you and do y'all need anything and stuff like that.
Yeah. Maybe I want to hear, I think Nicole had something else to say, or one of you guys.
Yeah, I started talking. It's cool.
Yeah.
I was saying that, so I'm newer to Austin. I know I've been here 2 years, but I jumped in and just started working and haven't really explored much of the city and stuff. And I know that we're kind of on lockdown now, except for essential personnel. And I applied online for Favor and Instacart. And I did that for 2 reasons. When I was standing in line at HEB, it's hard to talk to someone when they're 6 feet away, but people are in dire need of conversation right now, especially single people that live alone. And standing in line, this woman was talking to me. This other lady with a Favor shirt walked up, and the HEB employees were like, oh, hey, so-and-so, come on in. Favor goes to the straight front of the line because HEB owns Favor.
What's Favor again?
Favor's a delivery system. Like they deliver anything from restaurants to HEB,
Gotcha.
anything.
Like
and so I started thinking, like, all of those HEB employees knew her because she was and they're shopping all the time.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, what a great way to learn the streets better in Austin if you don't know them, or a specific area because you can target what area you deliver in. B, getting to know HEB employees and or restaurant employees, because a lot of people, from what I read online, a lot of people order from the same places over and over again. So you become that consistent face, right? And having those conversations. And and for me, like I said, I'm single and I have 5 mortgages to pay because my renters are already calling me, telling me, hey, I'm not gonna be able to make my rent in April, right? So looking at all my options, I'm not gonna, obviously I'm not promoting getting a job, because that obviously takes away. But when you can do a delivery system that you can watch your for sale by owners because you're driving around the neighborhoods, you can see who's cleaning out because maybe they have to downsize now. I've seen so many pods going up in driveways in my neighborhood of people packing up. So what is that saying to me? So making connections, and also reaching out on Nextdoor and saying like, hey, I'm an essential employee or I'm essential personnel. What do you need? Because I believe that ABOR is fighting for us to be essential personnel as well.
Yeah, I want to make a note on Nextdoor. I believe that through strategic and probably a better word is consistent, through consistent conversation. So the conversation is a relationship. Some of you guys have done Fierce Conversations. There's a book called Fierce Conversations. The conversation is the relationship. So every relationship in your life is rooted in how often are you in conversation with people, and how good are those conversations? One or two or both, right? How often are you in conversation with people, and how good are the conversations? I truly believe that Nextdoor is a great networking opportunity, that if you're consistent with the conversations, that's its own little network that realtors are not consistent about, to be able to establish relationships and create conversation. And that's farming. That's going to take some time. Like, it's not like it'd be uncommon or lightning would have to strike to be able to get a deal like within, just right away from that. But I do believe that that's a real opportunity, especially with what's happening right now as a realtor. Having eyes and ears on the ground as far as what's going on, being a source of the source. I really believe strongly in being strategic about Nextdoor. I think that's a huge opportunity that that agents don't capitalize on.
What do you mean by
And right
Nextdoor?
now on Nextdoor, they're asking if you can help elderly people, like if you can go shopping for them. If you're a member of your Nextdoor neighborhood,
You should do
they
it.
ask you to register if you can help.
I think Nextdoor is a highly untapped opportunity to organically create conversations and relationships. But like anything else, how often are you in the conversation? How good are the conversations? Your organization and your consistency with that, that's what's going to make the difference. Not you kind of, once a week or once a month. Like, you need to pay attention to that crap like it's actually prospecting. And that's nurturing and building the relationship. Ships. What'd you say, Andres?
What is Nextdoor?
It's an app. It's like a Facebook page, but not Facebook. It's
It's like Facebook for neighborhoods.
Oh, like a community app.
Community app, yeah. For neighborhoods specifically based on where you live.
Oh, wow, that's great. I'm gonna download that.
And if you're a business, you have to log in separately. So you can have 2 logins. You can have your personal login and then your business login, so they know what you do, but you can also just be there as a person. They don't want you posting business stuff on your personal.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's a huge opportunity. I've been nagging at my wife to be, because if you're consistently in those conversations, that's how you get to know your neighborhood organically without pounding on their doors. I'm all for door knocking. But that's an open dialogue happening every day. And if you make sure that those notifications are coming to you, and then you're intentional about the engagement and you're consistent with it, it's farming. I get it. It's farming, but it is an opportunity to look for, with what Nicole was saying, opportunities where, hey, how elderly needs help, or hey, this happens all the time on Nextdoor. Hey, I need advice on blah, blah, blah. Jump into that conversation.
Yeah.
A lot of contractors need it all the time. A lot of walking opportunities. Like I know Millwood, where I live, we have a trail, and people are like, does anyone want to go for a walk all the time? Like, it's just people that are reaching out.
Yeah. I think that in this world, and this, I think this epidemic is there's a shed of light on what's happening here. But our society the technology has created isolation at a different level that humanity has not seen before, as far as us being so technologically inclined, but creating social isolation in a way where like we don't communicate and connect the way past generations did. And we're experiencing all that right now on how this epidemic is kind of creating different levels of awareness with it. And I think there's an opportunity in this to go back to the roots of, hey, we're people. We were created for relationships. Being intentional, and it's such a cliche that people say in real estate's about relationships, real estate's about relationships, real estate's about relationships. But the organization and the intention on how to engage those at a high level. What were you saying, Norma?
Yes, I create a Facebook page for my apartment complex because there's an app, but it's filtered by the administration. So I just create that and wrote a message. We are going to be our first responders. We have to be together. We could be together during this quarantine. But I mean, and some neighbors just are now in the page, but I am afraid of what to write next. I would like to know if you can give me some ideas about what to say or write to invite more neighbors to write and openly share their ideas, because they are like afraid or they don't want to comment anything.
Yeah. What are you guys thoughts on that?
Ask them what they want to know. It's about them, right? So I would put out there like, hey, what are you looking for information on? Do you want to know about specific amenities? Do you want to know how our office is handling this COVID virus? Or I would ask them what they want to know and make them engage. Just people like to be asked questions.
Yeah, I would also put updates on anything. For example, Dallas was the first of the Texas counties to have the shelter in place. So maybe update like, hey, Dallas was the first, and this is what what the mayor has been saying and whatnot. Just regular updates on what's going on.
Yeah, you can also send them some link. Like yesterday, I had 5 of my database people lost their jobs or got furloughed, and I gave them the Texas Unemployment Commission link.
Which industry was that, Coco?
You can send them the links for Texas Unemployment to ask for the
Texas Force.
Yeah, Texas Unemployment Commission to ask for the unemployment work, or how do you call it?
The FEMA?
Yeah, no.
Not
There is one for to apply for unemployment.
Oh yeah. There's also
which industry was that again, Coco? Did you say that which industry?
Restaurants.
Restaurants. Yeah.
Contract accepted yesterday, and the guy got furloughed yesterday.
Yeah.
Terminated. So
yeah.
He's going to go back probably because he's working 30 years for the same restaurant, but we had to terminate because the loan officer told me that he has to technically be working. Even if he's going back to his job, we have to terminate the contract. So I have 5 people in my database lost their jobs within the last week. And also talk to them about not just stop paying the mortgage. Talk to them and ask them to call their bank and make arrangements, but don't just stop paying their mortgages.
Yeah. That's another good topic for conversation when you say, hey, how are you doing? No. Figuring out how to, is everything okay? How are things going with, being able to make mortgage payments? And look, we can say that because that's like the doctor taking your temperature. right? The doctor can put the whatever that thing is, temperature stick in your mouth. Thermometer. The thermometer in your mouth, because that's their job, right? So for us to say, hey, how are things going? I mean, as far as like where you're at with your mortgage payment, everything okay? I'm concerned. Everybody's going crazy right now, and you can put it on the industry, on the circumstances to go, how's everything? Because being able to give good advice like that, Coco, is absolutely of value and an opportunity to connect for sure. That's good stuff.
You know, Paul, it's very strange because I'm getting this anxiety that whenever I call someone, you don't know what you're going to hear. So whenever you start the conversation is anxious because you don't know, after the third person that tells you, I lost my job, like you don't know how to start. You just call and you say, how are you doing? And then from there you kind of take it off. But it's getting a little bit weird that some people you get a good answer, some more people they are very anxious. They are, at the same time they're very grateful because they say you're like my family because you're calling me. But at the same time you don't know how to react. So sometimes I'm just quiet and just listening, you know?
Yeah. Well, and sometimes, Coco, that's all people need is someone to listen to them. And someone to have, and just to talk. And so that empathetic, I think empathy is a big thing right now, right? Sympathy, I feel sorry for you. Empathy, I feel with you. And sometimes just being in that is okay, that I don't have to have an answer or I don't have to have a solution, that I could just be there with them and share that moment with them.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's just what they need at that moment.
Yeah. But now the calls are a little bit unknown. So you start the conversation and you don't know what's going to happen at the end of the call.
Yeah, and you know that's relevant too for some of you guys that are having conversations for people not in your database. People complaining about what's going on, and they're expressing distress or concern or anxiety. Like that's what repeating and approving is all about, and we should do a little bit of that. I feel like let's see where we go in a minute, where acknowledging that, repeating and then approving or acknowledging and then appreciating at a higher level, like letting them, like being in that moment with them. Now that takes some intention as far as how I'm listening and letting my brain process the association of that pain or that anxiety or that stress. Because if you just try to template that and just try to like create like a surface level response without actually like really feeling it and thinking about what they're saying and associating with some of that anxiety or fear or stress or pain, that's when they feel it and they go, and you're just in that moment together, and there's something special about that energy where you're creating more common bonds of connection and rapport. That's where you're building the relationship.